All right, let's turn now to the latest crack in the foundation when it comes to internet freedom. This week brought out yet another ruling, this one in the UK, where the file-sharing website The Pirate Bay was blocked to millions of users. The UK High Court ruled that the leading ISPs in the country must censor the Pirate Bay website, saying both the site and its users were breaking major copyright laws. Now, this comes on the heels, of course, of the Cyber Intelligence Sharing and Protection Act, or CISPA, passing here in the U.S. House just a week ago, and also with many more rules and regulations regarding the internet in the works. So we want to look deeper into this with David Seaman, a journalist, also host of the DL Show. Hello there, David. Now, let's talk first about this Pirate Bay ruling. It's making waves in the UK, but why should we care about this here in the U.S.?
I think the fight against quote-unquote piracy is global. We have these powerful but dying entertainment corporations that are putting tremendous pressure on legislators and on law enforcement, on our government, to crack down on what they see as piracy. But piracy is not the same thing as theft. When you go out and you steal money from a bank or you steal somebody's car, they no longer have that car. It's gone. It's now yours. When you distribute a piece of music or, a comedy show or anything like that, and other people see it, it's not as if the original creator has lost anything. In fact, there's a lot of evidence that those artists who receive a lot of play over the so-called piracy networks end up doing quite well because they reach millions of people who would not have even known about them otherwise. So
well, I mean, I think we
exposure.
should mention, though, David, I mean, just, their side of the story. They say what they've lost out on is the, X amount of dollars. We were talking earlier in our newsroom about, the cost of a CD used to be, $16.99, $17.99. So when you pirate the whole album or you take the whole album, you're not stealing it away from anybody, but a lot of those artists would argue that they deserve the money from it. I mean, I'm right.
Well,
right?
I mean, these huge media companies want to invent a time machine and go back to a time where we would pay $17.99 for a stupid CD, or we would only have a handful of options when we turn on our TV at night in terms of what kind of news we can get. And, if a musician or an artist isn't on the Today Show or MTV, they have no chance of success. And that's just not the way it is anymore. They have these laws in place to attack piracy, and I think 10 years from now, it's going to seem laughable and sad that our government went after pirates when there are legitimate digital crimes happening online. There's identity theft, there's credit card fraud, there are very serious things happening. There's online harassment. All these things are happening, and I think that's what our law enforcement agencies should be focused on. Not so much focused on taking down piracy sites.
I think that's a fair point. Certainly things have changed. And another laughable kind of thing is the initial impact that this particular ruling had, and that is that 12 million more visitors than the Pirate Bay has ever seen went to its site. The site was giving tutorials on kind of how to circumvent some of these imposed blocks. This was, of course, the initial reaction. But I'm wondering, David, what do you see as some of the longer-term domino effects coming from this ruling in the UK?
Well, the 12 million user surge you just mentioned is really interesting because that proves the point that you can't stop people's behaviors online. Information wants to be free, and entertainment wants to be shared. That's just the way it is. Back in the day, when you finished listening to a CD, you would hand it off to a friend, and these networks do the digital equivalent. A way that I've read that makes a lot of sense is they said that, if you want to crack down on hardcore, like cocaine dealers, you don't go after the company that makes their plastic bags and shut down the factory that makes those bags. You go after the dealers. And in the same way, when they shut down one of these websites, if that is their goal to stop, sharing of content without it being monetized in some fashion, they're not going to be successful because something else is just going to spring up overnight like a mushroom.
I think that's...
I mean, you can't stop sharing.
It is an interesting analogy. And I do want to say, I mean, we are dealing with something similar in this country with, a long list of proposed privacy-infringing regulations in the bill, CISPA. And unlike what we saw with SOPA, the Stop Online Piracy Act, not as many people are coming out quite so vocally against it, but there have been a few, including Mozilla. Mozilla told Forbes magazine that, quote, CISPA has a broad and alarming reach that goes far beyond internet security. The bill infringes on our privacy, today includes vague definitions of cybersecurity and grants immunities to the companies and governments that are too broad around information misuse. I should also say the CEO of Cheeseburger put it simply in an interview with ProPublica. They simply said, CISPA is SOPA's cousin who works for the CIA. But I'm wondering, David, why are more people not coming out against CISPA? It already passed, like we said, in the House last week. The Senate is working on their version, and we're not hearing quite as much criticism of it.
Well, Christine, the big reason why you're not hearing more criticism is that most Americans I talk to don't even know about this bill. When you turn on the news at night, I mean, thankfully, RT America is all over this, and there are a handful of other networks that are covering it. But the vast majority of news networks that Americans turn to, and even large news websites, just are not mentioning CISPA. And unfortunately, it's already passed the House, so now it's going to go to a Senate vote, and you can't oppose something you don't know about.
Let's just talk real quick. We're almost out of time, David. Bigger picture here with some of these changes, in these widespread freedoms that we've enjoyed for years.
I mean, the only good thing happening here with all these, rollbacks of our online freedoms is that we have the tools available to stop this stuff. It only takes 5 minutes to call both of your senators, and their numbers are publicly listed on the Senate website, on senate.gov. Just give them a call, be polite. Tell them you oppose CISPA and anything like it. You don't want them attacking the internet. And go on Twitter. Like, I have a lot of followers on Twitter who spend a long portion of their day just spreading the word and telling people that they need to oppose CISPA.
I think you're right. Until some of these major websites do sort of what they did with SOPA, which is have an internet blackout or really put the information out. But once again, what we're seeing in other countries doesn't mean it won't affect us here. That's why we wanted to take a look at it today. David Seaman, journalist, also host of the DL Show in our Miami, Florida studios.